Okay, yay! Hello, good morning, everyone. So doing something a little different this morning. Teaching our regular yoga class on FcbdU, or our standing Monday morning yoga class, live on FcbdU, and at the same time, welcome my Facebook friends. I've also posted this to my personal page on Facebook. I think I have more people on there than I do on my business page. So I just wanted to say hello to everybody joining from both places this morning. So I thought I would go live for this yoga class. So if you'd like to grab a mat and join me, you can grab a couple of blocks as well, if those are something that you normally use in your practice. If you're not you kind of don't want to move around, but you just are curious, you're yoga curious, then I encourage you to just watch and breathe with us. So breathing, as long as you're breathing, you're doing your practice, you're doing your yoga, and sometimes just breathing together and being mindful for a little while can be just as beneficial as a physical practice. So welcome for those of you that are joining me in both places. All right, so why I decided to go live on FcbdU and Facebook this morning instead of just our normal yoga class is I wanted to focus today's practice on transitions. So we're in this weird in-between state in so many aspects of our life. So for instance, here in the United States, for those of you that are joining, you know that it's daylight savings time. So everything kind of shifted a little bit, and we wake up this morning and we're in this weird transition of your body thinking it didn't get enough sleep, perhaps it didn't get enough sleep, and everything kind of feels a little awkward while we're transitioning into our day and into this new kind of time frame. For those of you that are not in the US and your time hasn't changed yet, thanks for joining me super early this morning. I know Edna was like, take it easy, geesh. Well, Edna's in Texas now, but yeah, take it easy, geesh. Don't worry, we're gonna take it easy today. So transition. So not only are we in this transition of like daylight savings time, but we're also in this transition of it's almost spring. And so this weekend we celebrate the spring equinox. I can hear the birds chirping outside. The trees are starting to bud. And so there's this transition of an anticipation, right, of spring coming and all of the beauty that it brings. And then we're also in this weird transition phase of people are getting their vaccines. We're starting to kind of get out of the house a little bit more, perhaps. I saw some of my friends had a wonderful event, like dance events are happening again. Wow, I hope one day I can be a part of one of those again. So there's just a lot of transitions happening. And transitions are and can be very uncomfortable. So I wanted us to get out of our comfort zone together today by doing this yoga practice and working on transitions between the poses. Now, even though transitions can be really uncomfortable, transitions are where the growth happens, right? So it's not about one day it's winter and one day it's spring. The part in between is the part that I love so much about spring. It's the trees starting to bud and the tulip starting to kind of come up out of the ground and the daffodils starting to open. And it's all about that growth, right? So the transition is where the growth happens. If you think about many of us where we were last year compared to this year, there has of course been some growth that hasn't happened, but a lot of growth that has happened. And so just those again, that real big discomfort that's sometimes necessary for us to grow. So today we're going to focus on transitions in our yoga practice as well. I want you to take these concepts and apply them to your dance practice, transitioning from, arms overhead to arms at shoulder height. It's not just about from here to here. It's that in-between part that's so beautiful and mesmerizing as well. So we want to enjoy all the parts of our practice and our dance. So again, if you are joining me and you're like curious, but you don't really want to do anything physically this morning, it's okay. Just breathe with us and move with us. So we're going to do a fairly simple-ish practice this morning, nothing too crazy, because I want you to be able to focus on the in-between parts. Okay. Enough talking. Let's meet in a child's pose. And again, if I do anything today that's just not comfortable for you, just don't worry about it. Do something that is. It's your practice, and it's all about what makes you feel good. So child's pose, your knees can either be wide or they can be together. So if your knees are wide, maybe you take your torso really long. There's kind of almost a little tiny back bend here. If you bring your knees together, you get a little bit of roundness in the spine. And just relax your forehead down on something. And if it doesn't quite reach the mat, you can always stack one fist on top of the other. So I won't go into too much detailed instruction today in these poses. I definitely go through more details in some other classes, but since today's all about transitions, I just really want you to focus on being from one posture to the other, that transition between. So I love to start in child's pose. And as it pertains to spring, I was journaling this morning and thinking about how child's pose is, it kind of feels like that flower bud, where you have this anticipation of starting to move and starting to bloom, so to speak. But you just have this stillness about you where the energy is kind of building. There's a little bit of wonder about what's going to happen, what's it going to feel like. But just take a few moments to ground here. Let your forehead relax down on something, whether the floor or your fists. And just take a moment and enjoy the state of being. Just being here right now. Notice as you inhale and you exhale what parts of your body want to move. What changes as you deepen your inhale and you lengthen your exhale. Can you let your belly expand a little bit more as you inhale? Can you let your chest and your hips relax a little bit more as you exhale? Let's just keep the torso pretty low as we crawl ourselves over to the right. So we're just taking our hands over to the right. They may come off of your mat. You might like to stack one fist on top of the other or your left hand on top of your right. Just still keeping the torso down towards the mat. See if you can also keep your left shoulder down towards the mat. So that left shoulder wants to kind of come up. So the left hip and the left shoulder still relaxing down. Feeling a nice little gentle opening along the left side of the body. And then we slowly crawl our hands over to the left. Stacking the right hand on top of the left if that feels okay. And just check in with the right side of the body. Can you relax the shoulder down a little bit more? That right hip anchored down a little bit more. Perhaps feeling the opening along the right side of the torso. And then let's come back through center. We're going to meet in a tabletop position, but what I want you to do is I want you to mindfully get there. So just raising the hips, raising the torso, and then finding that adjustment with the knees under the hips, the wrists under the shoulders, the fingers spread nice and wide, just feeling the hands pressing down into the earth, feeling what it feels like to move from the floor to more of a tabletop position. And we're going to move through a few cows and cats here. So as you inhale, drop the belly down, shoulders away from your ears, a little gaze forward or even up if that feels okay on your neck. And as you exhale, I want you to really pull the belly in, enjoy the roundness of the spine and the transition of taking the back of your body up towards the ceiling, relaxing your head down and just gazing either at your belly button or between the knees. Enjoying the transition as you inhale, dropping the belly down. And we'll speed this up shortly. I just want you to really tap into enjoying the transition and not just the final pose. Yeah, so we're breathing and moving with our exhale. Breathing and moving with the inhale. So the breath guides the movement. Let's do one more of these. So one more full inhale here. Always breathing in and out through the nose in our practice. If you ever feel the need to breathe in and out through the mouth and just back off of the pose, you've passed your edge. Exhale around the spine, pull the belly in, enjoy this movement. And then come into a neutral position. So we're gonna go into a little movement that I love how it feels so much, and it's not about how it looks ever. It's not about how it looks, it's all about how it feels, and it's a full transitional movement. So you just get to close your eyes and enjoy. So we're gonna take an inhale here in our tabletop, and as we exhale, we're gonna drop our hips down towards our left heel, over towards our right, and then come back through center. We're gonna go this way a few times. So don't worry about how it looks. What I want you to do is really see if you can make the movement feel good in your body. Enjoy every part of this circle. So every part might feel a little different. Maybe you feel it in your shoulders at one section, then you feel it in your hips, then you feel it in your belly or your back, and then over to the other side. Maybe you feel it in your chest or your neck. So noticing that each part of the movement feels a little bit different. It's a little maybe uncomfortable or enjoyable in a different way. And then let's switch it up the next time you get to the top. Relax the neck, relax the shoulders. Doesn't matter how it looks. If I'm doing this on live Facebook, then you guys can do it at home with nobody looking. One of my favorites. This is also so good for the circle step. I don't know if you all get in the floor before you practice your dance movements, especially at a studio, but wow, this feels so good before you get into the circle step. All right, and coming back into a neutral tabletop position, I want you to really engage the belly. So think about our dance posture, our low belly engagement, and then engage it just a little bit more. Curl the toes under, really find strength in the arms. So you're pressing yourself away from the mat. Shoulders are broad, and we're just gonna barely hover the knees a little bit. So we're just hovering the knees. You can pull the hands towards the feet and the feet towards the hands if you need a little more challenge. And we're breathing here through our nose, in and out through the nose. Pressing yourself away from the floor. Now, this is a challenging transition, so we want to make sure that we do it slowly and we do it mindfully and we really challenge ourselves and know that there's going to be some discomfort, but the end result is going to feel so good. Yeah. So we're going to slowly transition into a downward facing dog. So go ahead and take a big inhale. And as you exhale, what I want you to do is take your hips back towards your heels. So you're pressing yourself back. And then slowly start straightening the legs, lifting the hips up, and then start pressing the heels down towards the mat. And they may or may not touch the mat. It doesn't matter if they do. And just enjoy now where you are. So I won't go into too many details here for downward facing dog, but child's pose is always an option if this is just too much for you today. And take a moment and start bending your left knee, letting the left hip drop down to the floor. Straightening and then bending the right. And it's not about how far you bend your knee. What I want you to do is feel the legs move, feel the hip drop down, feel the whole transition here. And then find some stillness. Now we're going to shift forward to plank. So lift your heels, press yourself forward, maybe even round the spine to get there. Coming into a plank pose, you can always drop down to your knees. And then lower your knees, nice and slow. We press ourselves back to child's pose. Pull the belly in, round the spine, press yourself back. Enjoy that transition. Inhale, coming back into a plank pose, either on your knees or lifting the knees up. Exhale, slowly downward facing dog. Don't rush to get there. The growth happens in between. Let's do one more time. Inhale through our plank pose. Lower the knees, round the spine. Exhale, child's pose. And then inhale, plank. Pull the belly in, strong through the core and the arms as you lift the knees. Downward facing dog. And then look forward at your hands, the top of your mat, and just start walking your way to the top of your mat. And every step you take, maybe feeling it a little bit in the backs of the legs, noticing how it feels in the arms, bending your knees as much as you need to when you get here, and just bend your knees a lot here when you get to the top. Round your spine over your thighs and relax your head. Just give yourself a little break here. Shake your head yes, shake your head no. And now what I want you to do is really spread your toes wide, feel the ground underneath you, feel your mat underneath your feet, all parts of your feet. Pull the belly in so your spine is nice and rounded, like you're taking your nose to your knees. And I want you to really, really slowly start rounding yourself all the way up. But I want you to enjoy this part of it. It's not just about the standing pose that we're going to. It's about the transitioning in between. And then when you get to the top, bring your shoulders up by your ears, take them back and press them down. Okay, so let's add in a little more movement here. So find ourselves in mountain pose, toes spread wide, palms facing forward, like we are open, we are receptive to whatever is gonna happen, knowing that when we show up at our mat, sometimes we fall over, sometimes we make it through, and it doesn't matter because we've shown up. So whatever happens, happens. All right, let's take a big inhale, spread the arms nice and wide, reach the arms up, hold on to the left wrist of the right hand, engage the right obliques, and reach over to the right. Really enjoying that whole side stretch here. Inhale back through center, switch your grip, engaging the left obliques as we reach over to the left. Inhale back through center. Now what I want you to do is let go of that grip, bend your elbows, lift your heart, gaze up towards the ceiling as you exhale. Inhale, reach the arms up, pull the belly in, bending your knees. Exhale, we forward fold. Inhale, hands to your shins or to your thighs as you halfway lift. So really pull the belly in, crown of your head reaching forward. It's like you're trying to make as much space between the crown of your head and your tailbone as you can. And then exhale, fold. And as you fold, we're gonna put our weight in our right foot. Take your left foot back behind you and lower down on the left knee. So if you've been practicing with me for a little while, you know where we're going, but I wanna get there a little different of a way. So stacking your right knee over your right ankle-ish, pull that right hip back a little bit, engage the left glutes. And I want you to just come to the tips of your fingers and then take your arms forward. Pull the belly in, strong through the arms, strong through the core. We're gonna enjoy this discomfort transition as we come all the way up nice and slow. Sinking the hips down a little bit if that feels okay, but keep the low belly pulled in. So it's not about a back bend here. It's about getting into those left hip flexors. Just a couple of breaths here. What I want you to notice is how it feels when you inhale. See if you can lengthen the spine a little bit more. And how it feels when you exhale, relaxing the hips and the shoulders a little bit more towards the earth. A couple more breaths just like that, noticing the transition in between. Even though there's stillness here, there's still some movement. There's still some growth happening. Your next exhale, we slowly go all the way down. So it's about the transition on the way there, not just taking your hands to the floor. Curl your back toes under and we meet in a plank pose, either on your knees or on the balls of your feet. Eyes of the elbows are forward. If you're on the balls of your feet, shift forward a little bit. We're gonna bend the elbows and we're gonna lower all the way down. So we're all gonna meet on our bellies, tops of your feet on the mat, legs zipped up together, elbows in nice and close. Inhale, engaging through those middle back muscles, not in between the shoulder blades, but those middle back muscles. Think about a really deep body wave here or layback. Exhale as you lower. Now, turn the core on, turn the arms on. Inhale for your plank pose, either on the balls of your feet or your knees. Exhale, enjoy the transition to downward facing dog. Couple of breaths here. Take your gaze forward and then take that little stroll all the way to the top of your mat. Inhale to halfway lift, elongate the spine. Exhale as you fold. And then press down through all parts of your feet, arms out wide. Enjoy the rise all the way up, like you're enjoying the sunrise. Exhale, hands down through heart center. When we watch the sunrise or the sunset, it's not about the sun already being up in the air, right? Or the sun already being down past the horizon. It's about that beautiful transition happening in between. I want you to imagine that as you come up and as you go down. Just imagining the beauty of all of that happening the way up and the way down. Okay, let's do the other side. Inhale, arms reach up. Let's hold on to the right wrist with the left hand. Exhale, side bend to the left. Inhale, rise back up. Switch out the grip. Exhale, side bend to the right. Inhale, back through center. Let go of your grip, bend your elbows, lift the heart. Inhale, arms reach up. And then as you exhale, bend the knees, forward fold. Imagine that sun setting. Inhale, halfway lift. Get the spine nice and long. So we're going to use this length that we created as a transition to then extend as we fold. So notice that feels a little different than the first forward fold. Now we're going to put the weight in the left foot and step the right foot to the back of the mat, lower down on that back knee. And we're preparing to come up for this other side. But remember, we want to have this left knee stacked-ish over the left ankle so that we're not over here. Yeah, and then we want to turn the right glutes on, pull that left hip back a little bit. That's just so that our hips are in one line and they're not a little wonky. Wonky is a technical term. And then coming to the tips of your fingers, strong through the core, long through the spine, take the arms forward. And then use that strength through the legs, the arms, the core to rise all the way up, pull the low belly in, and find that depth here. And just notice one side's going to feel a little different than the other for most people. Just enjoy every inhale and every exhale feeling perhaps a little different. It's okay if it doesn't. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's more obvious on one side than the other. If you contract your right glutes, you might feel a little more opening along the front of the right hip. And then exhale, slowly we take the arms all the way down. It's almost like you can't really move the torso anymore, so then the arms finally have to go on their own. Curl the back toes under. Let's meet in our plank pose. Again, lowering down to your knees at any point in time. It's all about building strength here. It's not about being on the balls of your feet. So that's not what the point is. Shift your weight forward, eyes of your elbows forward. We're gonna slowly lower all the way down. This transition is tough. Sometimes we wanna go from here to here. But the transition is where the growth happens. That discomfort is where the growth happens. Tops of your feet on the mat. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, we lower. Another transition, another challenging transition. Curl the balls, curl the toes under if you want to press up to plank or come to your knees. Inhale for your plank pose. Exhale, enjoy the way to downward facing dog. Couple of breaths here. See if you can take your hips up and back a little bit more. So never getting really comfortable where you are, but always just kind of finding your edge and exploring, how can I make this sensation a little more enjoyable? How can I find just a little more discomfort, no pain? How can I use my breath to find a little more depth or a little more strength in this pose? And then gazing towards the top of your mat, let's just take our little stroll to the top. So if you read my blog post this morning, I referenced a little visualization meditation from The Wizard of Oz. So just strolling up your yellow brick road. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to your shins or to your thighs. Exhale, enjoy the forward fold. Now remember that sunrise. So press down through all parts of your feet. Your feet are super grounded to the earth. Bend your knees a little bit for stability. Pull the low belly in. Widen the arms and let's raise all the way up. That's sun rising. Enjoying the sunrise. And then hands down by your side. Okay, we're gonna add on a few things. We're gonna speed it up a little bit now that you know kind of where we're going with this. Okay, so now we're gonna take our arms up overhead, biceps by your ears, pull the shoulders away from your ears, pull the low belly in, and then we're gonna sink back like we're gonna sit down in a little tiny chair. So the inner thighs are engaged, the knees may or may not come together, it doesn't matter. Just look down and see if you can see your knees kind of going out past the toes, so we're not just sticking our knees out or pulling them in too much. See if you can sink down a little bit more, pull the low belly in a little bit more, so no duck butts happening. And then let's take the arms back behind us. Maybe shift the torso forward a little bit. Now, here comes a little challenge. We're gonna put all of our weight in our right foot. We're gonna lift the left leg off the mat, extend it back behind us, and slowly come to the ball of the left foot, as gentle as you can. And then biceps by your ears. Now, pull that low belly in, strong through the core, strong through the legs. We rise all the way up for our high crescent pose. That back knee can have a bend in it, that's fine. Just like we did when we had our knee down on the ground, what I want you to do is pull that right hip back a little bit, turn on the left glutes a little bit, relax the shoulders away from your ears, and see if you can really feel where your inhales and your exhales allowed for that growth. Your next exhale, we're going to open up into warrior two. So the arms go out to the side, really pressing down on all parts of both feet, strong through the arms, so really reaching the fingertips away from each other. And then keep that right knee bent, flip the right hand up. We're going to reverse our warrior. Gaze goes up, right shoulder away from your ears. And then enjoy the little cartwheel of the hands all the way down. That's the fun part. All the way down so your hands frame your foot. And then we're going to step that right foot back into plank pose. Now you can do the same transition that you did earlier where we lower all the way down to our belly for a cobra pose, or I'll show you upward facing dog, which is another challenging transition. So shifting your weight forward a little bit if you're on the balls of your feet. We're going to lower halfway down. From here, we're going to flip to the tops of the feet, press up through the hands, and come into upward facing dog. The option is cobra pose, just like we were doing before. If you're in upward facing dog, strong through the legs, strong through the hands, strong through the heart. This is excellent work for lay backs, deeper body waves. And then the transition to downward facing dog from here, pull the belly in like we were when we were rounding back to a child's pose, flip the feet over, and meet in downward facing dog. Couple of breaths here. So the transitions are challenging, but that's where the growth comes. That's where the strength comes. That's what makes the poses a little bit easier when we get there. If you want to stroll to the top of your mat like we've been doing, you can. If you want to try something else a little challenging, lift your heels, bend your knees, and gaze forward. And then just take a little hop. to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, we fold. Press down through the feet, bend the knees, arms out wide. Get your sunrise happening. Exhale, hands down by your side. One more side. Okay, inhale, arms reach up. Pull the low belly in, sink the hips back, chair pose. See, Edna, I'm taking it kind of easy on you. And then take the arms back, reach the torso forward a little bit more here. Strong through the spine. And now we're going to put our weight in our left foot. Take this right foot back behind us. Notice how strong we have to be. And then slowly, almost like we're going to put our little toes in water back there. We don't really know where the water is or how cold it's going to be. And then take the biceps towards the ears. We rise slowly into our crescent pose, just adjusting our feet where we need to. Again, left hip back a little bit, turn the right glutes on. Enjoy every breath here. How does the breath change the feeling, the sensation in the body? We're going to open out warrior two. So you can bend the left knee a little bit more, pull the low belly in, strong through the arms. And then keeping that left knee bent, flip the left hand up, reverse that warrior. Really feel the opening along the left side of the body by contracting along the right. And then enjoy that little cartwheel. Whee, little cartwheel all the way down. Y'all, I tried a cartwheel once in my 30s, never do that again. It was great when you're like 8 years old. After that, probably don't want to do it. Just take my advice. And then coming into your plank pose. I'm going to give you the option. You can lower your knees. You can lower all the way down. You can follow me through that transition of lowering halfway, flipping to the tops of your feet and pressing up. And then your exhale is nice and slow into your downward facing dog. Couple of breaths here, and then we're going to take it down to the floor. We're almost there. I have no idea how long this class has been, but just enjoy it. All right, so transition into your plank pose. And then lower your knees. Transition into your child's pose. Let's come into tabletop position. I'm just going to get into the shoulders a little bit since we worked so much on the arms. Okay, so we're in our tabletop position. Let's take our right arm up towards the ceiling, like really open up towards the ceiling. Feeling that right shoulder come back a little bit, shoulders away from your ears. And then let's thread the needle. So we're going to take our right hand behind our left. And before you just plop that right shoulder down, I want you to really, really, really reach. Like you're trying to hold my hand, like reach towards me. Then bend the left elbow and lower down. The more you can reach, the more space you'll get between your shoulder blades. The rhomboids will get a little more love today. And this left hand, you can use it to kind of press yourself away a little bit. You can take it behind you. You can take it in front of you. Just play around. Where do you feel the need for that left arm to be today? Okay, we're going to enjoy the transition as we come back up. So we're going to use this left hand underneath our shoulder-ish, press ourselves up, and then open up that right arm back towards the ceiling. And then right hand goes down. Let's do the other side. Remember, we're not rushing to get there because this is where we're feeling the opening through the chest and the shoulder. This threading the needle part is where we're creating the space between our shoulder blades so that when we do transition, when we do get to our destination, we're getting there in a way that's more beneficial to our bodies than if we just plopped down for the end result. We're making space. We're finding some depth. So that when we get to the end result, quote unquote end result, we feel a little more satisfaction. We feel a little more of an intense, yet just a little discomfort, right? Not super, super uncomfortable feeling. Breathing in and out through the nose, starting to slow the breath. And then pressing down with that right hand. We raise all the way up, taking the left arm up towards the ceiling, just opening up, enjoying that heart space open. And then taking the left hand down to the floor. Let's do 2 rounds of cow and cat. Inhale, belly goes down, shoulders away from your ears. Open up the heart. Feel the space that we created in the spine. Pull the belly in, round the spine. Press yourself away for your cat pose. Inhale, open. Exhale, round. And coming into neutral, cross your feet behind you and have a seat about in the middle of your mat. If you don't have a mat and you're on the floor, great, you don't have to worry about this part. You can just have a seat wherever. So we're gonna take our legs out in front of us. We're gonna go all the way down to the floor, but what I love to do is get there in a way that is actually kind of beneficial. We can find a little more strength in it and not just plopping down to the floor. So taking your arms out in front of you, sitting up nice and tall to start, and then pull the low belly in. We're rounding the spine, making ourselves as tiny as we can all the way down. So when I'm in a big yoga class, I like to talk about this as being like a reverse race. It's like the last person whose shoulders touch the floor, I don't know, gets bragging rights or something. So a reverse race. Now there's going to be a part of this where you just plop down and that's totally fine. We're building, it's a process, right? We're building slowly. And once your shoulders touch the mat, squeeze your knees in nice and close. Give yourself a big hug. A little gentle rock side to side if that feels okay. All right, so let's take our feet down on the mat. Your feet are about hip distance apart and they're pretty close in, as close as you can get them. The palms of the hands are down, and I want you to still keep some engagement in your inner thighs. The legs don't have to touch, but just keep the engagement in the inner thighs so that the knees are still like in line with the hips in a diagonal and not splayed out, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the low belly in, so it's like the pubic bone is pressing or moving up towards the ceiling. So really feeling the core contracted. Now I want you to contract your glutes, and I just want you to peel one vertebra at a time up off of the floor. So it's almost like you're giving yourself a little massage all the way up, feeling all parts of this bridge pose as you get there. So bringing your chest up towards your chin a little bit more. Keep gazing up. Don't look at me. Don't look around. Contract the glutes. See if you can lift the hips a little bit more. See if you can lift the heart a little bit more. And now keep the strength in the glutes and the inner thighs. And we're going to slowly roll down. So I want you to, again, think about a massage, only this time on the way down. I want you to see if you can feel every vertebra as you lower. And your tailbone is the very last thing to touch. And then when your tailbone reaches the floor, you can relax your glutes. So we're going to do that one more time. But I hope you can see that that's a lot more it feels a lot better than just like, oh, bridge pose. You know, you just really feel all parts of it. You feel a strength, you feel the massage on your back, you feel all of that happening. That's where the growth happens. So sometimes growth can be uncomfortable. Sometimes it can be really comfortable. So pull the belly in, contract the glutes, and then slowly we take ourselves up. Keep your gaze up towards the ceiling. Lift your hips by contracting the glutes a little bit more. Lift the heart up towards the chin a little bit more. Keep the inner thighs engaged. A couple of breaths here. And then slowly, slowly, slowly we roll all the way down. Enjoy the whole way down. Some parts might be a little challenging, but once you get to the end, it's so satisfying. And then relax. Okay, a couple more things and then we will go into our final pose. So we're gonna cross our right foot on top of our left thigh. So I have my right ankle on top of my left thigh-ish. You can take your right hand to your right thigh and just gently press the right knee away from the body. So we're not pressing hard, we're just kind of feeling a little bit of a sensation. If that feels okay and you want to go a little deeper, then you can start lifting this left foot off of the mat. Keep the right foot flexed. And then you can take this right hand kind of in that hole that you created between your legs. That sounded funny, but this number 4 that you created with your legs, and then you can either interlace your hands behind your thigh. Maybe that feels pretty good. Maybe it feels okay to take your hands on top of your shin. Now this is where you have to be honest with yourself. It's like, is this a little bit too much? If it's too much, back off, right? Because you can always pull this left leg in a little bit here. Keep this right foot flexed. You're gonna feel a difference if you relax it versus if you flex it. Try it out, see. Maybe even flex the left foot and see how that changes things. And then release whatever grip you have. Slowly lower that right foot down, left foot down rather, and then the right foot. And then let's do the other side. So the left foot on top of the right thigh, flexing this left foot. Now each side might feel a little different. So just because you did something on one side doesn't mean that you can necessarily do it on the other side. So let's first just test out this left hand, pressing the left leg forward a little bit. And then if that feels okay, start lifting the right foot, keeping the left foot flexed, and then kind of explore what your edge is here. So for instance, on this side, my edge is really just keeping my hands behind my thigh, not necessarily on my shin. Play around with relaxing and flexing the feet and see how that feels. Couple of breaths here. And then slowly let all that go. Take your left foot to the floor. Now let's take both feet wide, about mat distance or a little bit bigger. We're gonna do a simple little twist here, one of my favorites. So we're gonna drop the knees over to the right. It's a little windshield wiper, but we're gonna keep them over here for now. We're gonna keep both shoulders down on the floor. See if you can take the left knee a little bit more towards the floor. So you feel a nice little twist happening in the hips. And then if this feels okay on your neck, you can start gazing over to the left. So you've got a nice little twist, nice little gentle rotation happening in the spine. And then gaze up towards the ceiling. Then bring your knees up towards center. And we're going to take our knees over to the other side. So taking the knees over to the left, keeping both shoulders down. See if you can take the right knee down towards the floor a little bit more. And then if it feels okay, gazing over to the right. And then gazing up to the ceiling. And then bringing the knees back through center, and we're just gonna squeeze the knees into our torso. So we're just gonna squeeze the knees in. You can take them wide if you'd like, so it just depends on what kind of space you have as you bring your knees in towards your chest, and keep the tailbone down on the mat. Just give yourself a little gentle rock side to side, just giving the low back a little love. A little playful, gentle rock here. Maybe you wanna take it into happy baby, or you're holding onto your ankles, or the outsides of your feet, or even your peace fingers holding onto your big toes, and just a little gentle rock. I like to joke that the advanced version of this is to smile because it's a happy baby. So maybe you add a little gentle smile. And then let's squeeze our knees in nice and close. Bring your nose up towards your knees. Take a big inhale. And as you exhale, I want you to enjoy the exhale and the release as you come all the way down, letting your legs be long, your arms be long, and just finding a comfortable final position here before we close out our practice. And there's some things I want to share with you before we leave today. So finding your final resting pose here, your final Shavasana pose. Now, if this is just uncomfortable on your back, then you can bend your knees and let your knees come in towards each other. But just take a moment and find a little release. Right? So we did a lot of little tiny muscular strength work. So some of it you might not have felt, but that deep work was happening. We did a lot of focus. So I want you to just let the brain relax. Let the breath go back to whatever feels normal and natural. See if you can release some tension from the body, and let's just do a little body scan here as we take the last few breaths together in this final pose. So gently closing your eyes or relaxing your eyes, letting your tongue relax away from the roof of your mouth, and letting that space between your eyes, your third eye center, relax a little bit as well. That intuition, that space of intuition. So don't worry about what could be happening next. Just enjoy this current place that you're in. Well, let's just take a few moments to acknowledge the different parts of our body and send some gratitude. So starting at the top of your head, a space where we might not pay a whole lot of attention. Just notice how the air feels at the top of your head. Maybe it's a little cool, maybe it's a little warm, maybe you never thought about that before. Just moving that down into the forehead and the eyes and the cheeks and the jaw. Just seeing what you can relax a little bit more. Down through the neck and the chest, the shoulders, the arms, even the fingers. What can you let go of a little bit more? Bringing some awareness to your belly button, seeing if you can release and relax the low back towards your mat a little bit more. And the hips, as dancers, hips are so important to learn how to relax. This is where we find more range of motion, the strength in our obliques, but the relaxation in the hips and the glutes. Relaxation in the thighs and the knees, the lower legs, and the ankles, letting the feet just fall out whatever way feels best. Maybe they fall in a little bit, maybe they fall out a little bit. Maybe giving a little gentle wiggle of the toes and letting the soles of your feet relax a little bit. Let's just take a few moments here. Sending some love and gratitude to all those places that we are asking to just be and just relax and just melt into the mat, into the earth. And you are always welcome to stay here for as long as you'd like. If you're ready to start your day, you can just begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes, offering a little gentle movement to the body. Maybe some movements into your ankles and your wrists. Seeing where the body needs some movement, just really, really mindful, gentle, as if you're just waking up for your day. So maybe the arms go overhead with a little stretch and toes reach far away from the arms. And then if and when you're ready, just roll over to one side, but stay there for a few breaths. Just gentle transition before we come to our seated position. Enjoying that space where the work is done, but the practice isn't quite over. Anticipating the sensation of what it will feel like when the practice is done, but enjoying everything that we've done in this transition between the beginning of our practice and the end of our practice. And then when you're ready, just gently pressing yourself back up into a comfortable seated position. And I want to encourage you to keep your eyes relaxed, maybe even closed. Coming into whatever comfortable seated position works well for you. Maybe your knees are bent and your legs are crossed. Maybe your legs are wide or out in front of you. Just take a moment here, sitting up nice and tall with your arms down by your side or your hands at your thighs or your knees. And just take a moment, notice how you feel. Sometimes transitions can be easy. Sometimes they can be a little more challenging. And what I have found is the more challenging the transitions are, the more satisfying the end result is. So anytime life comes at me, begins to challenge me a little bit more, or I'm in that weird in-between state of not knowing what's coming, I just like to remind myself that the harder the transition, the more satisfying the end result. So I want to leave you all with a little quote today that I found earlier when I was journaling, and I love quotes, so I'm always trying to find something a little inspirational for my day. And this quote, I don't know who it's from, unfortunately, but it's, "The moment in between what you once were and who you are now becoming is where the dance of life really takes place." So dance through those transitions, my friends. It'll be worth it in the end. Thank you so very much for joining me today, whether you're a member and a subscriber of FcbdU and you join me often. I appreciate it always. Whether you're a friend on Facebook that is just kind of popping in and maybe you just breathed along with us today, or you're just kind of curious about what we're up to, I appreciate you joining. So thank you so very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy this transition into spring. Enjoy these transitions that may be a little bit challenging right now, but know that the more challenging they are, the more worth it ultimately becomes. So let's just dance through those transitions. Namaste.